Yep, we return to Oz, this time with no deadly desert, no wheelers, no freak-ass scary woman who pulls her head off and changes her head out with another head. You guys ever seen The Return to Oz when you were kids? No, well I did, and it freaked the shit out of me. But hey, this is more pleasant. Oz the Great and Powerful. So Oz the Great and Powerful is the story of Oz the Great and Powerful. That is the Wizard of Oz before he was really the Wizard of Oz. Although he wasn't ever really a wizard, he was a dude. And they play on that fact in this movie. Oz is played by James Franco. He's a trickster, he's a con man, he's an illusionist, he's in Kansas doing his shows. Then as he said in The Wizard of Oz, he was in a balloon, tornado swept him away, now he's in Oz. The land of Oz as we kind of remember it, but really mostly not. Because they have new technology now, so it's gonna look different. And after that, you have wicked witches, and you have good witches, and you have Oz who needs to save the world, or at least the land of Oz, which is probably in his subconscious. And it's really dangerous taking on something like the land of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is such a classic. So now we're gonna return there without that feeling of something being classic. It's gonna be new and we're not gonna have nostalgia wrapping us into it. That doesn't mean there's not a lot to like in this movie. Oz the Great and Powerful does a good job at making it its own adventure, not relying on the Wizard of Oz, but having some things, you know, some tie-ins or at least references where they're like, oh yeah, it's still Oz. And you're kind of like, oh, is this, you know, original Wizard of Oz shit going on. Still no deadly desert or wheelers who have faces on their heads who crumble in the deadly desert and scar you as a child. Oz the Great and Powerful really is a good story about redemption. You know that story of a guy who's really not the best he can be, but he makes his way. He's a con man for God's sakes. He's not the most altruistic human being. However, they're like, you're the wizard we need, but maybe not the one we deserve right now. So Oz is like, wait, do I become really rich with a treasure if I'm your wizard? Yes? Okay, yeah, I'm your wizard. We already knew in The Wizard of Oz, he's not a wizard. He's the guy behind the curtain, you know? He's just uses smoke and mirrors and illusions. And in this movie, like in The Wizard of Oz, the crew that he meets are really representations of people he knew in the world. Like in Kansas, in the real world. Zach Braff plays the flying monkey, and Zach Braff was ultimately the same character. He was a little monkey guy who would do whatever he said because he's his magic assistant. One of the best parts of this movie, and the part when I really knew this movie actually had heart, is a little porcelain doll girl. There were like 3 times in the movie where I teared up a bit, all of which had to do with this little porcelain doll girl. It's just a really cool parallel of what he gets to do in Oz and her little problem and what he couldn't do in the real world. I'm telling you, that was good shit. If for nothing else in the movie, if you hate the movie, you can't deny that. You'll be like, the movie sucked. That was good though, you know, teared up a bit. If you didn't, please put the matches down. Stop burning boxes of kittens for the love of God. And I like how they had a throwback to the old Wizard of Oz in the sense that, you know, in the old Wizard of Oz when Dorothy's in Kansas, it's all black and white. Then she gets to Oz and it's color. And this one, kind of the same trick. It's 4:3 aspect ratio, which is, you know, this aspect ratio, and it's black and white. It looks plain. Then he gets to Oz and then, oh, it's widescreen. It's in color. And yeah, the Wicked Witch is in this movie, and I do like how she has character. The Wizard of Oz is like, oh yeah, she's the bad person and she does bad things in Oz. But in this movie, she does have more character. I like that. Doing a prequel allots you opportunity to show more about the villains in the later movie. The movie's not perfect though. It does have problems. There are some pacing issues where you're like, all right, well, we're doing this for the sake of doing this. There are a couple of scenes where I was like, that just happened just to show that Oz is just kind of a creepy place sometimes. Didn't add anything to the plot, didn't take away anything from the plot. Those didn't need to be in it. Also, some of the CGI. I get it. Oz is a magical land. It's going to have a lot of CGI, but try to avatar that shit. Try to make the CGI look really real at least. Because sometimes it looked kind of like a cartoon. I feel like it's a cheap excuse to be like, yeah, you know, it's meant for kids, so it's supposed to look like a cartoon. Not a good excuse for me, you know? Just don't make it look like a cartoon. It's a movie for kids. Oh, and families. So make it look like a movie for kids and families, not a cartoon for kids and families if it's not supposed to be a cartoon. In the end, I actually enjoyed the shit out of Oz the Great and Powerful a lot more than I thought I would. One of the biggest things it suffers from is the fact that it's not a classic like the movie it's springboarding off of. It's a movie about Oz, and we grew up with the Wizard of Oz, so we're really nostalgically attached to the Wizard of Oz. It doesn't feel like the Wizard of Oz because it's not the Wizard of Oz. And I can't take a checkpoint off of a movie because it's not as nostalgic as its predecessor or sequel, in the sense that this is a prequel. I like James Franco as Oz. I like the characters. I like the witches. I like the point of the movie. A guy who steps up to be better than he thought he could. That's really cool. Families will have a good time with it. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I will say Oz the Great and Powerful, I would actually buy on Blu-ray. I was going to say it's really strong, no alcohol required, but at that point it's called I'd buy it on Blu-ray. So Oz the Great and Powerful, have you seen it? Do you like the Wizard of Oz? And what do you think of the Return to Oz? I don't know why. This is the only time I can actually ask you this question. Return to Oz. That's a real movie. It happened, and I saw it. Have you seen it? Whatever you think about all those questions that I just asked that I can't remember, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.